Tonight, labor turbulence as a full ground stop looms at Air Canada. Hundreds of flight cancellations strand thousands of travelers.
Definitely worried.
I'm concerned about getting back from my destination.
What Ottawa can do to stop the tailspin. Frustration building in Newfoundland.
And for those who were on the phone yesterday talking crap.
What sparked this angry outburst? And Donald Trump takes another shot at Canada.
Canada does what we tell them to do.
Plus, what's at stake on the eve of a crucial summit on the war in Ukraine.
I want to see if I can stop the killing.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Heather Wright.
Good evening. Air Canada is set to cancel 500 flights by end of day tomorrow with a full ground stop plan for Saturday by 1 a.m. if a deal between the airline and its flight attendants can't be reached. The gradual suspension of flights began today, disrupting travel and creating uncertainty for hundreds of thousands of ticket holders. We begin our coverage tonight with CTV's Sean Leithong on the very different messages being delivered by both sides and the travelers caught in the middle.
Storming in on their employer, about 24 Air Canada flight attendants picket inside a news conference that was organized by the airline.
We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be valued for the work that we do.
Members stand holding signs accusing Air Canada of forcing unpaid work. This as the airline begins canceling flights, winding down operations towards a total shutdown.
It's simply not the kind of system that we can start or stop at the push of a button.
At the start of the day, Air Canada leadership outlined what the shutdown would look like. It includes several dozen cancellations Thursday, around 500 cancellations on Friday, with all flights grounded by Saturday if a deal is not reached in time. The first cancellations to be mostly international long-haul flights set to take off Thursday night. The airline saying all canceled flights will be offered a refund as they try to rebook for those who are stranded, but seats are limited.
And it looks like we're going to have to pay out of pocket probably about $900 for a new flight.
With similar anxieties across the country, this woman in Vancouver bought 2 return flights.
I am booked Monday with Air Canada, but I bought another flight with Flair just to be safe.
While in Ottawa, a European vacation may need to be extended.
We could stay with family, but I mean, it would definitely be an inconvenience.
We are extremely disappointed by CUPE's decision, which threatens to disrupt the travel plans of more than 130,000 customers a day.
The airline saying their latest offer, a 38% raise, including benefits, that would make Air Canada the best compensated flight attendants in the country.
One of the lowest rates.
Bargaining team member Natasha Stea says the airline isn't being truthful.
We are not the highest paid, and with the increase that they're proposing, we still would not be the highest paid.
Air Canada has asked the federal government to step in and force mediation, with Federal Labour Minister Patty Hajdu saying the government is available, but I urge both parties to put their differences aside, come back to the bargaining table, and get this done now. Minister Hajdu adding to that statement today, saying that the union has requested a deadline of noon on Friday to decide if they will enter binding arbitration. She has agreed. Heather?
All right, CTV's Sean Leithong at Pearson Airport. Thanks, Sean. With the strike looming, Air Canada passengers are now scrambling to figure out their options. CTV's Adrian Gabriel looks at the fine print.
Labor stoppage or not, you should still be able to get off the ground, according to industry watchers.
If you already have an Air Canada ticket booked and paid for, then Air Canada has to buy you a ticket.
In the case of an active strike, which is classified as outside an airline's control, large companies such as Air Canada are required by legislation to rebook customers on a new reservation for the next available flight that is operated by any carrier.
Any carrier means any airline, including but not limited to the airline's competitors.
On their website, Air Canada says customers whose flights are canceled will be notified and they will be eligible for a full refund. Air passenger rights advocates are advising customers against accepting a reimbursement.
One important thing to remember is do not accept a refund. Refund can be a way for airlines to wash their hands from their obligations to rebook you.
If you don't have a ticket and are looking to book travel in or out of Canada over the next several days, you might be in for a shock. The cheapest round-trip ticket departing Toronto tomorrow and returning from Vancouver next Friday costs more than $1,300. The same week-long round-trip ticket leaving September 5th, returning September 12th, is going for as little as $273. It all comes down to supply and demand that influences strategic pricing by the airlines.
Last-minute ticket prices, which always tend to be higher, and a substantial sudden increase in demand that is pushing prices up due to what might be a strike at Air Canada.
Again, if your flight is canceled by Air Canada, they're obligated to purchase you another ticket to your destination. If they refuse, consumer advocates say you can purchase one yourself and flip Air Canada the bill. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
The Ontario government is ordering its public service workers back to the office full-time.
I believe everyone's more productive when they're at work, and how do you mentor someone over a phone? You can't. You got to look at them eye to eye, over the water cooler, wherever, train them, camaraderie.
60,000 Ontario civil servants will be required to be in the office 4 days a week starting in October and 5 days a week in the new year. More than half of the province's workers are already in the office full-time.
I like going into the office, but I also really love working from home too. And there's a lot of flexibility with that. And at the end of the day, if the work is getting done, isn't that what matters?
I have to think about our busing situation because my kids are going to 2 different schools. Think about before and after.
Turning now to the wildfire raging on the north shore of Newfoundland's Conception Bay, where more than 100 homes have been damaged. Officials say it's still too dangerous to send crews in to get a better count, which means many of the 30,000 evacuees are wondering if their homes are still standing. Here's CTV's Garrett Barry.
Tanya Kearley Russell fled her place in Western Bay 10 days ago with whatever she and her husband could fit inside these 2 vehicles.
Every single item precious to me in my life is in Western Bay.
As she waits in St. John's, she can't help but think of her property underneath the smoke and the flame of the Kingston wildfire.
The things that people gather around them are part of their story. And when people share those stories and are connected through those stories, those things become more meaningful.
One town council in Conception Bay North did report some preliminary numbers today of structures that were lost, but provincial officials say it's still far too dangerous to send anybody in for a more complete count.
The Kingston wildfire just keeps marching north. Evacuation readiness notices expanded yet again today. Photographer Eugene Howell has been capturing as much of it as he can.
Something's important for the history to tell the story. To me, maybe as a photographer, I just think in the past a lot of things weren't recorded.
This morning, frustrated government officials struck back at those who they say are berating public servants over the phone over political decisions.
For those assholes who were on the phone yesterday talking crap to our staff, stop it. You're the same people who trolled us during COVID, and it was unacceptable then, and it's unacceptable now.
Premier John Hogan said the comments were ugly, unfair, and angry, and shouldn't be directed to people working hard, trying to help. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
A growing out-of-control wildfire in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley has forced the evacuation of more than 40 homes.
If there was a Tetris packing championship, we'd probably win it. We're just jammed much stuff as we could get in there.
Officials believe the fire was started by lightning. It began last night and has since grown to 3 square kilometers.
Really pleased that the Irishtown fire is contained because of fantastic work from our firefighters and ground crews and emergency responders.
One of 3 major fires in New Brunswick is now contained, but officials warn that it could flare up again. The province's largest fire in Miramichi is still out of control.
We don't feel that there is any imminent threat. Otherwise, we would be issuing additional alerts and orders. But we need people to be prepared, and a part of being prepared is ensuring that your home is as fire smart as possible.
And the wildfire on Vancouver Island near Port Alberni grew overnight, but officials say rain is expected. U.S. President Donald Trump said today that when it comes to border security, both in the north and the south, he's making all the decisions.
And Mexico does what we tell them to do, and Canada does what we tell them to do.
Trump has repeatedly cited border security as the reason for imposing tariffs on Canada. But U.S. numbers show the fentanyl going south into the United States accounts for about 0.1% of the total amount seized at U.S. borders. Ontario Premier Doug Ford lashed out at Campbell's Soup today, accusing the company of misleading Canadian consumers.
You think the people of Ontario are that dumb? Like, I'm gonna call you out and get one of those cans. I'm gonna rip that label off and encourage people to buy made in Ontario, made in Canada soup.
Ford is referring to the designed in Canada printed on some Campbell's Soup labels, despite the fact that they are manufactured in New Jersey. The company says the design was first added in 2018, but phased out and is no longer in production. China's nearly 76% duty on Canadian canola seed went into effect today as the trade dispute between the two countries grows. Today, we heard from the Prime Minister, the opposition leader, and industry leaders on what's next. Here's CTV's Alison Bamford.
China's newest anti-dumping duty on Canadian canola seed essentially shuts out Canada from its second largest export market. Speaking to reporters on a farm outside Saskatoon this morning, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre called for retaliation.
We should look at ways we can penalize the regime in Beijing for targeting our farmers.
In a post on X, Prime Minister Mark Carney says his Liberal government plans to advance a constructive dialogue with Chinese officials while diversifying trade abroad. But industry leaders say there are ways to grow the market here at home.
Canadian canola is a terrific feedstock for producing renewable fuels.
Fuels like biodiesel and renewable diesel are already produced in Canada, mainly from cheaper waste oils. But volatility in the Chinese market could increase the appetite for canola-based fuel.
There's a greater capacity to handle more of that canola oil should it become available at a more approachable price.
There's potential not only as a road fuel, but also an alternative to conventional jet fuel.
It would function on existing airport infrastructure in terms of refueling infrastructure. It would function with the same engines that we have today.
If canola could fuel half of Canada's current renewable diesel production, experts say that would make up for about half of the lost Chinese market, with additional revenue potential in sustainable aviation fuel should that production really take off. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
There will be a review of the referendum question that will be posed to Albertans on whether to separate from Canada. The proposed question asks, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? Today, a judge said it will be beneficial to democracy for the question to be scrutinized. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith did not want the question to go to a hearing, instead saying it should only be reviewed if it wins a majority vote in a referendum. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's convinced Russian President Vladimir Putin wants to make a deal at tomorrow's highly anticipated meeting in Alaska aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. CTV's Mike LeCouture is in Anchorage. Mike, what can we expect to see tomorrow?
Well, details are emerging about the schedule for the meeting here in Alaska. The two presidents will sit down for a one-on-one before being joined by officials from their respective countries. The day will also include a working breakfast. We're also hearing the plan is to have a joint press conference with both Trump and Putin at the end of the meetings. However, the White House does say that if the summit doesn't go well, then President Trump will hold one on his own. Now, this is the first time Vladimir Putin has been invited to talks in the U.S. since 2007. In the nearly 2 decades since then, he's annexed Crimea and invaded Ukraine. Now, Russia currently holds more than 18% of Ukrainian territory. Ukraine's president, who was not invited to this meeting, and European leaders all hope that at the conclusion of this meeting, the Russian president will agree to a ceasefire. Heather?
Mike LeCouture in Anchorage, Alaska tonight. Thanks, Mike. For more on what's at stake at this meeting, here's CTV's Rachel Aiello in Ottawa.
Final preparations are underway in Alaska at the U.S. military base where the high-stakes summit aimed at ending the war in Ukraine is taking place.
I want to see if I can stop the killing.
Tomorrow, U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin will sit down face to face. Today, Putin called Trump's efforts to stop hostilities energetic and sincere, though Trump tempered expectations.
I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, like we tend to find out whether or not we're going to have a good meeting or a bad meeting. And if it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace in the pretty near future.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky won't be in Anchorage, but Trump said he's keen to convene a second summit with the three of them and perhaps other European leaders very quickly after.
I'd like to see it actually happen, maybe in Alaska.
Today, Zelensky met with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and the pair emerged optimistic about the chance for peace, so long as Putin agrees to a ceasefire deal that protects Ukraine's territorial integrity.
If President Trump somehow manages to cajole that out of them, that will be the best possible outcome.
Asked today if he thinks the summit and the incentives for peace being put on the table could end up rewarding the Russians for invading Ukraine, Trump said no. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up, a sinking feeling.
We've got 3 oceans to defend, and we have 1 that we can cover.
While Canada's top naval officer says time is running out to replace an aging submarine fleet. Canada's submarine fleet will be obsolete in about a decade, and the country's top naval commander wants a decision on who will supply the next generation of subs by the end of the year. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
Only one of Canada's submarines is surveilling the deep seas. The other 3 subs under maintenance, making it difficult to meet military obligations.
It means that we've got 3 oceans to defend, and we have 1 that we can cover. And because we've struggled to get these submarines operational.
All of Canada's submarines were built in the 1980s and will be too old in a decade. The Navy says it requires 12 new conventional diesel-electric-powered submarines in order to effectively patrol the oceans and train its officers. Companies from France, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, and a joint venture from Germany and Norway say they can meet those requirements.
Submarine will be diving in 1 minute.
The government plans to decide on a supplier by 2028, but the Navy's top commander wants the timeline moved up by 2 years.
I'd like a shortlist even sooner than that, and I'd like a decision by the end of the year. I think we can get, it's going to be a lot of work.
The most ambitious pitch came from a South Korean company, Hanwha, which already has vessels in production, says it can deliver the first submarine to Canada by 2032 and 1 per year after that.
We produce ships and submarines at 40 plus ships and submarines a year. We believe that as we're already producing these are the same submarines that are in use operating right now with the Korean Navy.
But the federal government is looking for more than just speed. The deal will be leveraged to boost the economy.
The lowering of trade barriers, access to markets, commitments to invest in Canada. It could be based on the final decision could be based on a whole lot of non-military factors.
Each submarine will cost about $2 billion to build. The U.S. is not a factor in this decision because it doesn't make conventional submarines, only nuclear ones. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, they're not like us. A world first for robots. A Little League baseball game in New York State had to wait for the dust to settle, literally before a championship could be decided. These 11-year-olds had to duck and make a run for it when a dust devil tore through the diamond. The whirlwind lasted about 30 seconds and then play could resume.
That was that Vancouver is already known in the whole world. That's maybe one of the best cities in the world.
German soccer legend Thomas Muller turning on the charm as he was unveiled as the newest star of the Vancouver Whitecaps. The 35-year-old has won 33 titles with Bayern Munich and a World Cup. The first ever World Humanoid Robot Games kicked off in Beijing, and it was a rough start to the soccer match. One machine malfunctioning and being carried off the pitch. Here they are testing their speed in track and field. They also showcased choreography and musical performances. More than 500 competitors are taking part, and they even had their own parade. Well, still ahead, turning over a new leaf by sewing up old wounds. There's been a common thread in one man's journey from Syria to Turkey to Canada: sewing. A skill he mastered as a child out of necessity has helped him stitch together his dream life in British Columbia. CTV's Adam Sawatsky explains.
And that's one picture of me. I was a year and 3 months.
And not long after he posed in front of a picture of a city, Ali Alaj Obeid started seeing the real buildings bombed.
In Syria, all I can remember is the war.
And never forget the friends and family he lost.
I really don't prefer to talk much about it because it really hurts.
Well, his family eventually found temporary safety moving to Turkey. Ali had to start working full-time to support them when he was 12.
Scary, tough.
You were just a little boy.
Yeah.
Working 12-hour shifts, almost 6 days a week at a clothing manufacturer.
And in break times, I started sitting at the machines and discovering how to use those machines.
Ali taught himself how to sew before designing and crafting clothes for his mom and younger sister when he was 13.
It felt a big achievement.
He got so good, Ali was promoted to manager at 17.
There is no way to love it. When you work there, you are just like a machine.
Ali would find solace spending time with his family and watching YouTube videos about Canada.
It was my dream to come and be here one day.
So you can imagine how Ali felt when, after applying to multiple countries, his family was accepted to immigrate here.
I can't really explain it in words.
When they arrived, Ali earned a job sewing, was accepted to college, and fell in love.
That's my wedding suit.
Ali made it from scratch, while also tailoring this wedding dress for his wife.
Tailoring to me is not just sewing, it's an art.
It's now Ali's passion, which he couldn't be more grateful to share after realizing his dream of opening his own tailoring business.
My hope is pay back to Canada.
And after his life was torn apart by war, Ali's committed to stitch it back together by using his skills to be of service.
Kindness is the main thing in life, being kind to others.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
And that's our newscast for this Thursday. For all of us here at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Heather Butts will be here tomorrow. Have a great night.